Yep, I can see us. How do we hear? Good afternoon. Are you able to hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Glad everyone, we've done a sound check. We'll probably do one here in another couple minutes. So we're glad that you can hear us. We can hear you.
Perfect.
You're not really very loud, though.
Are you saying you can't hear us very well?
I can hear you, but the volume is very low.
The sound is fine for me.
Do you need to turn up the volume on your computer, maybe?
My speaker
Yeah.
is set at 100%, and I'm hearing you fine.
Okay. That would be something to try. Try to turn your speakers up, just see if that helps. We'll make sure to speak up as well. We'll get started in a few minutes. All right, good evening. We're going to start in about 5 minutes. We want to make sure to give a chance for everyone to join. So let us know if you have any challenges hearing us. Looks like we have, I'll just kind of go through who I can see here from the room and the screen. Looks like we have Mr. Young, Angela Guernsey, thank you for joining us. I think we have Ms. Engel, thanks, nice to see you or connect with you here. Mr. Cusimano, let's see. We have our team here, of course, and I'll introduce them in a little bit. I don't know if Mr. Nowacki has joined us yet, or let's see, Miss Jocelyn Kelly. I don't know if she's joined us yet. They're both registered to testify.
So before we get started in about 3 minutes with the hearing officially, just for purposes of keeping adequate record of today's hearing, if you have logged on and you're able to access the chat function of the Teams meeting, please go ahead and go into the chat box, type your name, who you're here to either testify on behalf of, as well as your address that corresponds with the location at issue. It's just something we typically do for all of our hearings, just like you would sign kind of an attendee sheet at a hearing in person.
Looks like we have Mr. Golson maybe and Ms. Collins from the Calumet Township Assessor's Office. And we have Lake County Assessor LaTanya Spearman and her team. Welcome. And we have, looks like Assessor Jenny Whipple from Bartholomew County. Welcome. And we're going to be recording this evening as well. So just to let you know that. We also have Diana Sukta, I think, from St. John Township, it looks like, from the assessor's office.
All right, it's 6 o'clock, so I will turn it over to Jennifer.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. We have quite a good group here. I've been reading some of the names, and we want to welcome you here. This is actually our very first hearing on a land order, and I'm going to give you some background, kind of tell you about the statutory authority and some of the processes and so forth. My name again is Jennifer Thuma. I'm the Deputy General Counsel with the Department of Local Government Finance. I'm going to introduce our members of our team here as well. We have Barry Wood here with us in the conference room. Many of you know him. He's a Director of Assessment and has been for many years with the DLGF. And Emily Chrysler, she's our General Counsel here in the department. And we also have a number of staff members online taking notes and observing. So we want to welcome everyone. As you may know, DLGF is an executive branch agency here in the state government. We've got a broad range of responsibilities over property tax, and those include working with land orders. This is an interesting provision in Indiana code. And as I mentioned, this is our first hearing on a land order petition. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that code provision, then you can go take a look at it as well. But under Indiana Code 6-1.1-4-13.6, the department may review a land order if a petition is filed with sufficient number of signatures. And Mr. Young filed a petition with the department. I believe in coordination with Mr. Nowacki, they gathered almost 200 signatures in Lake County from various townships, along with addresses, and submitted that to us. We reviewed the petition and communicated with taxpayers to let them know of the hearing and posted details on our website around July 15th. And invited anyone who wanted to speak this evening to do so. And then we asked everyone who wanted to speak tonight to go ahead and register with us, let us know in advance by, I think, this time yesterday. So we have 3 taxpayers who are going to speak and make some presentations, and then we will look forward to hearing from the assessor, from Assessor Spearman, and then also the township assessors if they'd like to say something. So that's how we'll proceed this evening. And also, just kind of to give a framework to this, this is different from an appeal process as we would think of it with property tax. So as probably everybody is familiar with, you can appeal individual tax assessments at the PETA-BOA level, at the local level, and then up to the IBTR in the tax court. This is a whole different process, and so we don't see it as adversarial. We see it as information gathering, and we think it'll be really informative, hopefully tonight, and that taxpayers will be able to share concerns and anything that they want to point out to us about the land order. So let's see. So we don't have any formal rules tonight, except to, of course, remain civil, maintain, high level of civility. And then what we'll do is, as I call on you to make your presentation or discussion, we will go ahead and unmute you. And then we'll move on to the next speaker after that. You don't have to use all of your time if you don't want to. We have a draft agenda that we've provided, and we'll use that. But again, if you don't want to use all of your allotted time, you don't have to. But we're going to go ahead then, and we're going to start with Mr. Young. He is the taxpayer who sent us the petition. And I might add before we get started as well, we've put a lot of work as a team into reviewing the land order that we have received. All the information is on the website. So we have field representatives who've dedicated about 50 hours so far to reviewing and analyzing and really looking at any question about the land orders. And then finally, before we get started with Mr. Young, when we conclude tonight, I'm going to give anyone who would like to do so an opportunity to submit whatever you like in writing to me by next Friday, and I'll go over that again when we wrap up. So, all right, are there any, well, if I open up to questions, I was going to say if there are any questions before we get started, but you're all muted. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll start with Mr. Young, as we have noted on our agenda. So Mr. Young, you can go ahead and please make your remarks and presentation. Hopefully you can, we're going to unmute you.
I think he has to unmute himself.
And I think it sounds like you have to unmute yourself as well. So we'll give him a couple minutes there to get situated.
Ms. Zuma?
Yes,
Okay, I'm on the telephone. I'd rather at least speak from the telephone and then I'll join the meeting on Zoom later. Okay?
Okay, yep, that's fine. Yes, feel free.
So I'm on the
Okay, go
phone and I
ahead.
don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you very well, so. Yes, you could go ahead from the phone. Can you hear us, Mr. Nowacki? Or sorry, Mr. Young?
I believe he is on mute. He will need to unmute himself.
So strange.
Excuse me, I think you have me unmuted on the Teams, but not on the phone.
Okay, that's it, because we have you in both places. Okay, on the computer and the phone.
Is your
I'll
number
mute
the
my
847 number? I don't have an option to unmute this one.
That's strange because he was unmuted just a minute ago.
Yeah. Is the number the 847-599-0800? If that's the number that you're calling from, we've unmuted you. I think that, I'm not sure. Jenny, is there a button they push to unmute themselves?
That is the number I'm calling from.
All
Did
right,
you hear
can
that?
you go ahead? Yep,
Yes.
we can hear you well, and you can go ahead and proceed.
All right, my phone is still not unmuted. The only reason you heard me was because I walked in where the computer is. Let me,
Okay, that'll work. That'll be fine.
well, I'd prefer to do it by phone because I have all my paperwork in another room.
Would you like us to go ahead with Mr. Nowacki and come back to you?
Yeah, because we don't show you
Is
as
he
muted.
on and ready? If he's on and ready,
Well, let's see, Mr. Nowacki, are you on the phone or are you in the meeting? Seems as if he has not joined us yet.
I'm going to do it from the computer. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, all right, I'm going to hang up this phone then for the time being. Okay, welcome and a pleasure to see you all here for this meeting. Just one little thing I would like to make note of, Ms. Suma, in your opening remarks, you said that the DLGF may review the land orders. I would just like to say that the statute says that the DLGF shall review the land order. So first off,
Noted, yes. I was
Okay.
sort of speaking in general, so.
I know, but you of course understand the ramifications of those words. So why do we organize this petition? It was because we recognize certain systemic failures in the local assessment system, primarily in Calumet Township. And per the certain statute, which you recited, if at least 100 property owners submit a petition, it requires the DLGF to review the land order. It has also been determined that Lake County and Calumet Township have failed to comply with. Have failed to, you're gonna have to give me 1 second, please. I'm sorry.
No problem. I love animals, so I have utmost, concern for animals and understand.
Okay, I apologize for that.
That's
But
okay.
due to the
No
time of the
worries.
meeting, I'm at home. So
No worries.
It has also been determined that Lake County and Calumet Township have failed to comply with many of the procedures laid out in the assessment manual. It is the guidebook for local assessors of how to properly do their jobs. I think it comes down to this. Do laws matter? Do the state mandated rules and procedures matter? Are we better off just allowing the Calumet Township assessor to do whatever they want, however they want to? I think the answer to these questions speaks for themselves. We are all, at least all of us are up here locally, far too familiar with the damage that has been done after decades of improperly assessing property in Calumet Township. According to IC 6-1.1-13.6C, that requires the Lake County assessor to create the base rate values and then supply those to the local assessors. Yet in Lake County, at least in Calumet Township, this is not the way it's been done. It is the Calumet Township assessor that has been determining its own base rates. This is exactly the opposite of what the law requires. And again, if that wasn't enough, we also know that the Calumet Township failed to follow the rules set out in the DLGF's assessment manual when it self-determined its own base rates. And they failed to find enough proper sales to determine those base rates. And so also, I think it's really important for us to determine now, as we begin this meeting, exactly which land order this petition is in response to. It's taken some time to get the right answers from the local officials, but it's my position that the land order to which we created the petition to object to is for the period, the quadrennial cycle from 2018 to 2021. I sent plenty of data to the DLGF to support this. And I would like to know now if anybody on the line disagrees with that, that's the period of time that this petition covers. Anybody can chime in.
I think Assessor Spearman can answer that pretty well. And I know it could be a little bit confusing, and I think she can explain that.
I can. I'm here, Jennifer. Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. The time period that's covered by the land order that was submitted to the PWA this year is 2018 through 2022. That's the reassessment cycle in which that land order was submitted for.
Okay. All right. Well, we still disagree on how many years are in a quadrennial cycle, but I guess for now, we'll agree to disagree whether quadrennial means 4 years or 5 years. But either way, if I direct you back to the statute that provided us the ability to file this petition, it says, if the County Property Tax Assessment Board of Appeals fails to determine the values before the land values become effective, and there's the important sentence, before they become effective, the Department of Local Government Finance shall determine the values. Obviously, these values, if they're for the 2018 through 21 quadrennial cycle, or if they're for the 2018 to 2022 quintennial cycle, that's the right word, they became effective on January 1st of 2018. So either way, they're either 4 years late or 5 years late, I guess. So, and that is a significant problem. In fact, if that's the case, much of the data that appears on the DLGF website, which I'm sure that these assessors have sent in recently, all the data, the sales data, is for 2021. So how is it possible that sales data from 2021 could be used to inform the assessment base rates in 2018? I'm not sure what reality that takes place in, apparently Back to the Future, but it's not how it's supposed to go. So having, I guess, firmly established that this is for 2018 to 21 or 22, I would say that it is either one. It's late. If it was for 2022, it should have been done prior to January 1st of 2022. I'm sorry, for 2022. If it was for 2021, all of them should have been done by January 1st of 2018. No matter which year ends the cycle, that's when they should, or required to be done by. I believe there's language that says they need to be done by July, and that makes sense because you certainly can't give these values to the local assessors from the county assessor and expect them to input all the data in one day. They would need probably 6 months to, especially Cale Township with so many parcels, to input all the data. So this land order, the one that we're objecting to now, is the one from 2018. So we'll have to wait and see what they come forward with for the 2022 to 2025 cycle, which is already late. So, second, please.
Yes, take your time.
Okay. I will do just that. Thank you. Not too much though. I don't think it comes as any surprise that there's a problem with assessments in Calumet Township. It's been going on for just about 20 years now, from the time that the state found it necessary to hire an outside contractor. Originally, they hired Arthur Anderson to do it. Arthur Anderson imploded. I think they handed off the duties to a place called CLT. CLT completely botched it. That's one thing I don't think you'll get any argument from the local assessors. I think we're still reeling from some of the problems because they're just, it was just an absolute disaster. And then on top of that problem, as a Band-Aid, they sent another outside firm in here to establish trending ratios. But the problem there was that they put trending ratios on top of invalid numbers. So it went from bad to worse. And I think locally in Cale Township, I think that office has had a very difficult time adapting to the market value and use process that we are required to assess property by. And, you know, I think the reluctance to adapt to that is a big part of the problem. right now, the county is going through some more studies. They have recruited the Indiana University Northwest to participate in studies to determine why there are so many properties that they can't sell. I mean, right now they quote about 10,000 parcels that they just can't get rid of. The vast majority of these are in Cale Township. And they're simply don't have any value, any marketable value. Yet, if you studied the same properties on the list, you'd find their their assessed values are all over the map, and outrageous, and under no circumstances worth the kind of values to anybody that they're listing as assessed values. I think that the Calumet Township Assessor's Office has just completely failed to adapt to the market value and use method. They're just still doing it the old way. It's like nothing's changed. And you go in there, it's like nothing's changed. But this is about base rates and the land order. And the Calumet Township Assessor and the Lake County Assessor have both failed to properly establish the base rates. I mean, it says how to do it. The manual lays it out in clear detail, how to get sales data, how much sales data, and how much maximum allowable percentage variance properties can have from one another. Yet none of the work produced by the Calumet Township reflects any compliance with any of these rules or laws or methods. First off, they don't have enough sales. I think that it appears to me, at least, that the data that they provided, is probably rushed together after the fact. I don't see any sales data posted on the website from 2017, from 2016, from the latter half of 2015, which I think are all the years of sales data that should inform the 2018 to 2021 quadrennial cycle, because you should have 2 years of sales data, obviously to blunt any market spikes. And the fact that you have to have it done by mid-year to give it to the local assessor in time would tell me that you should use the latter half of 2017, all of 2016, and the latter half of 2015 to get, at a minimum, to get your sales data. But here we have the 2018 to 2021 or 22, take your pick, land order. The only sales data we can see is what they provided online, and it's all from 2021, right up, and some of it's from November and December of 2021. So I'm not sure how they feel that is the list of data that should inform the 2018 to 2021. Maybe when Ms. Spearman makes her presentation, she'll have an explanation for that. But I've been in regular contact with her, and I can't seem to get the right answers that would support that behavior. How much time have I used up?
Well, you have a few,
About 12 minutes or so.
yeah, you have
really?
a few more minutes, and I have a couple of questions for you before we move on as well.
Well, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to kind of confirm. So it sounds like your focus and your complaint mainly is the Calumet Township land or the base rates there. Am I hearing that correctly?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to say necessarily that every other township is perfect, but there's nowhere near the problems that we experience in Calumet Township. I don't know that I could really complain about any other townships at all. I don't know everybody's assessment. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but speaking for myself, the only township that I have a problem with is Calumet Township.
And then of the Calumet Township, do you have more of a concern with residential property or commercial or industrial, or one area of the township like Miller Beach, or is it just the whole township you're concerned about?
I would say that the majority of the problems that I experience with the Calumet Township Assessor's Office revolve around the base rates on small lots. The base rates on the small lots that are peppered throughout the city are completely inconsistent and not uniform. You will find them you will find identical products. They have identical characteristics, and you will find some at some base rates that may yield a reasonable assessed value, while you may find another lot identical by any metric to be the same, yet it might have a assessed value of 3 or 4 times the other one. They may be within a rock's throw of one another. So, and the fallback position of the Calumet Township assessor has been just this response of, oh, well, it's the base rate. It's the base rate. Well, and then when pressed on where they came up with the base rate, how they came up with base rates, really nobody ever comes up with a clear answer. And now, after all this time, we figured out why. They're not doing it properly. And they tried pointing the finger, oh, the base rates were set by the state. The base rates are set by whoever, but they're not. It turns out the Lake County assessor hasn't been setting the base rates as required. The base rates have been set right in that office in Calumet Township. And they pretend they're literally etched in stone. And they shouldn't be. And they work off from, and the reason that they give you for this huge disparity between the assessed value, which is built upon the base rates of these identical, sometimes nearly contiguous properties, maybe across the street or across an alley, is the base rates and the so you know,
And when you,
and they have
when you
not.
said,
Oh,
when
I
you said-
was going with that. Not only the base rates, but it's because of the neighborhood. They're using this antiquated neighborhood map, and that's what determines the breakoff point between one base rate and another. Yet, if anybody were to look at the two properties or the neighborhoods that they have these different neighborhood base numbers on, they would be indistinguishable. You know, they look the same, and you know, you could be in one neighborhood with bombed out buildings and burned down hulks, and that base rate is half of what it is, or twice of what it is in a neighborhood where people are living and have the utilities on. There's no there's no method to it. There's no logical method to it, at least.
So it sounds like your focus is even more precise on the blighted areas. Is that what I'm hearing in some ways, or?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I'd say it's only in blighted. And then again, we'd have to determine what blighted is. I mean, because you know, is an area that's just forest with platted streets, would you consider that blighted, or is it only blighted if it has, you know, houses that are abandoned? I mean, you know, I don't consider forested area technically blighted. I certainly consider many of these neighborhoods that have these base rates all over the map, literally, to be blighted. You know, there's, you know, and if somebody takes offense to that, you know, that's up to them. But I mean, I think blight has a specific definition. I think most people know blight when they see it. So.
All right. If you don't have anything else to add,
Well, I could keep going, but I mean, I think the problem is, we know there's a problem with assessment in Kell Township. The assessed values far exceed any possible market values in nearly all cases. But I think that, you know, the solution would be to adjust the real property assessments in Kell Township to reflect their actual market values and to bring some uniformity to the assessment process in Kell Township. The problem with that, though, is I think because there's such a close relationship between the assessor's office and the City of Gary administration, I think it's difficult for them to act objectively because they have to be concerned, or maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But obviously, if everything is, let's just say everything's too high, and all of a sudden everything gets corrected, well, that's going to have a significant impact on City of Gary finances. And I don't think it's fair that we have to be concerned with that. I mean, assessments, proper assessment should stand alone and should not be influenced by whether or not it affects the finances of the City of Gary. Right now is a perfect time for the state to take advantage of this, come in, get things right. Let's get the city back on track. And the city has, the federal government, through the ARPA money, has given the city of Gary $93 million. The state, as far as I've heard, is sitting on a multi-billion-dollar surplus. Here we have a city of Gary, one of the, in the past, one of the most important cities in this state, helped build this country. And I think it needs to be paid back right now with the attention it needs to get back on course. This city, again, can be a terrific asset to the state. And I think it's incumbent upon everybody on this call and everybody else that could possibly affect that to let's get this city straightened out and let's get it back on track, because it's not doing anybody any good heading in the wrong direction. So I guess I'll leave it at that.
All right, okay, thank you, Mr. Young, and we'll come back to you probably toward the end for any additional closing remarks you would like to make, but we'll move on to Mr. Nowacki if he is on the line for your 15 minutes of discussion. I believe he was calling in as well, so.
Yeah, you may have a problem with that. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, he does not have access to a computer. I know that. So at least
Okay.
at this time of day.
We will look for a phone number here. There's a 219 that, wonder if that could be.
His number is 708-502-2339.
I don't have that number.
No, we don't have that phone number.
Let me dial him up and see where he's at.
Thank you for everyone's patience.
Yeah, Jim, they're trying to get you. And oh, okay. All right, hang on. Let me tell them.
All right.
Ms.
Yeah.
Suma, can you hear me? He said he's been on the phone listening to the whole thing, but he's muted apparently somehow. I had the same trouble on my phone.
So again, is his number 260?
No, it's 708 area code, then 502-2339. He says he's on the phone. He can hear everything right now. Are you on right this minute? Oh, he probably had to hang up on me.
We don't have a phone number listed like that.
I know he said when I called him on the number, he's only got the one phone. He said that he could hear everything. He was listening to the whole meeting so far. Is it possible for somebody to dial that number?
Yes, let us try that.
Okay.
We'll give that a try.
You need me to repeat it again?
708.
502-2339.
We're trying to call Mr. Nowacki here so he
Okay,
can.
yeah, I can hear I listened to the entire meeting. I don't know why I'm not on.
We can hear you now.
Somewhat.
Can
Hear
everyone?
me now?
We can hear you here. Can everyone hear that's listening via computer?
It's probably going to be
I-
difficult with my
Yes, I can
speaker.
hear
Let me,
him.
let me call mine through here.
Jenny Whipple gave a thumbs up too, so.
Okay.
Do you want me to try this one?
Can others hear Mr. Nowacki sufficiently?
Yes, Steve
Yeah,
McKinney.
Yeah, we,
we're getting thumbs up from
Okay,
everybody.
it
so.
sounds like everyone on the computer can hear you. So, yes, so we just wrapped up, Mr. Young just wrapped up his remarks. Okay, all right, and so we'll go ahead and move on to you for your presentation and remarks.
Yeah, my first remark is this is absolutely ludicrous, but I'm going to work with the opportunity that I have. But it should be noted that this is just an absolute. This is absolutely the most difficult way to try to convey important information to our elected and appointed officials. My name is Jim Nowacki. I'm a property owner in Gary, Indiana. I'm also a very public citizen. I'm very familiar with the issues regarding these there's problems with appeals. Matter of fact, I've probably had 1,000, if not more appeals, 1,000 appeals before the Calumet Township, the Lake County Peterborough Board, and the IBPR in various states, and I've had some success. But I'm going to start with a comment made by our past assessor, Jerome Prince, at a meeting when I was making my presentation. You got to remember, they just pile these things on you. They say they give you a few seconds to introduce a number, and then they say, well, and then they stamp the thing. We're going to go with staff recommendation. They don't even give you an opportunity. I get a little better with the IBTR, but the Peterborough Board simply rubber stamps everything. And I'm going to come to this comment because it's very poignant. Not only is it wrong and false and a lie, but it's revealing. Jerome Prince at a Peterborough meeting told the entire board, I have never won an appeal. And I think Ms. Spearman probably attended that meeting, so she could probably verify that. But Jerome Prince, the Lake County assessor, lied to the Peterborough Board when he said, I never won an appeal. Start with that information. And let's work a little bit. Let's work from that point. When I first invested in real estate, and I've invested in real estate in Wisconsin, in Illinois, in Michigan, and in Indiana. Most of my investments have been in Indiana, and most of my.
Are you still with us, Mr. Nowacki? We're going to try to call you as well on this desk phone here to see if we can reach you that way.
Just dropped. I don't think it's because of my service.
No, Mr. Nowacki called earlier today to confirm the hearing, and we had problems hearing him then as well. So I think there may be something with his phone.
Hello.
Hello.
We'll try it again.
All right.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Yes. Great.
Did you hear me in my comments where I said this is the stupidest thing I've ever participated in?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear me when I said that?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay.
And I
This
think-
was the stupidest thing I've ever participated in.
And I
It's
think,
very distracting that you've got such a lousy system that citizens are supposed to participate in it. So let me continue. Did I tell you that when Jerome Prince told the Peterborough Board that I've never won an appeal? Did you
yes,
hear that part?
and we understand that
Okay.
you've invested in
And so that
Indiana,
not only
Michigan,
is that, not only
Wisconsin.
was that a lie, not only was that a lie, not only was it a lie, but it revealed exactly what this process, what the Peterborough process is. Rubber stamp for the assessor's office. And that's completely bogus when we start with. We talk about the Lake County Assessor's Office when these requirements for land value orders and land based on land value surveys. I think it started in 2012, and it was implanted in, I think, in 2013 for the 14, 15, 16, 17 cycle, and then for the 18, 19, 20, 21 cycle, and for the 2022, 23, 24, 25 cycle. They never put in a land value, for the 14, 15, 16, 17 land order. Never put that information in. Then they didn't do the 2018, 2019, 2020, 21 until just this year, a year after the whole shooting match was over. Now they're late even for the 22, 23, 24, 25 land order. So not a single land order has been put in correctly. And the state never did anything to correct it. Never made a phone call, never corrected anything. Meanwhile, tax bills go out to every single taxpayer in Lake County with violating due process to even have these values placed correctly. Now, I'm not going to complain about the rest of the county. I'll try to talk mostly about Calumet Township because that's where the most disgusting part of this process puts itself. When the Calumet Township uses false information, for instance, when I come to some of my informal hearings, they talk about the values for properties adjacent to some of my appeals. And I'm able to show that some of these values are based on bank fraud that's on the newspaper. These are newspaper articles. But the Calumet Township is very happy to use bank fraud statistics in order to get their value. Let me tell you what the Lake County assessor did. The Lake County assessor directed an independent appraiser. It's Kovacevic and Company. Back in January of 2018, they asked them to do 3 appraisals on random properties in Calumet Township. One of them was a property at let me get that there. It's out on Washington Street. I'm looking for here, 2517 Washington Street. It had an assessed valuation of $3,800. It had an appraised value of $750. So if you're not familiar with the difference between assessment and appraisal, an appraisal is an independent value that's based upon a 40-page report to determine a value. The appraised value was $750. The assessor valued it at $3,800. To help with the math, that's 5 times the value, 500%. They did another appraisal on a property on Oklahoma Street. So I'll take that back. They did a property appraisal on 35th Avenue in Lake County, Calumet Township. On the 35th Avenue property, which was 739 West 35th Avenue, they had an independent professional appraisal of $1,000. That's a 40-page report, independent, determining fair market value of that property, $1,000. The assessor had it valued at $6,000. That's 600%. 600%. And you have to remember the difference between appraisal and assessment.
Do you have copies, Mr. Nowacki? Would you have copies of the appraisals?
Are you disrupting me?
Yes,
Are you disrupting me?
would you have copies of the appraisals that you could send us?
Yes, of course I've got them. You know who provided them? Ms. Spearman. Ms. Spearman personally provided these to me. So there's another appraisal on Oklahoma Street at the address there is 1109 Oklahoma Street. They had a professional appraisal, and I want to remind you the difference between appraisals and assessment. Appraisal is an independent 40-page report on market value. It had it appraised at $50, which is about what this property would go to and would be sold at a tax sale. The assessor had it assessed at $1,700, which is 34 times, 3,400%. And if I were to suggest that these seem to be out of line, and if I were to come into the office with these, the office would probably would probably say, "Oh my goodness, we better correct that." Do you know that these appraisals done in 2018, and now we're talking 4 years ago, in January 2018, 4.5 years ago, not only have they not been corrected, but the property on Oklahoma Street was increased. Did you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
What they did was they didn't correct it. They increased the assessed valuation to make it more out of line with the appraisal. And then this is someone would say, "Well, Jim, you're talking a little bit crazy here. I mean, why would anyone be so incompetent, stupid, neglectful, violating anyone's property rights? Why would they do that?" Well, there's a good reason for it. There's a profit motivation for it. I'm looking at the IUN, Lake County government authorized report. It's titled "Possible Ways to Solve the Problem of Turning Parcels Remaining After the Commissioner's Tax Certificate Sale." If you're familiar with the tax certificate sale process, they kind of bounce between the treasurer and the commissioner's sale. They do it kind of randomly in violation of statute. But the net result is this: these properties are so overassessed that even when someone buys it for a nominal amount, and if I were to draw this picture for you, because I think it's an important picture, 500 people, all eligible buyers, come to us, and a property comes up for sale at a nominal $10. This is not fictional. This is an actual sale. And 20 people raise their paddles to bid $10 on the property. And it goes to $20, and all but one paddle goes down. In other words, it was worth $10, but it was not worth 20. Can you visualize that?
We understand what you're
Can you hear me?
saying. We can hear you, yes.
Okay, so what happens then is these parcels and then what you have to do is you have to go through this appeal process. I have appealed in some instances that might have been 10 or 11 years for me to complete my appeal process. In the meantime, I'm instructed, well, just pay the taxes. Some of my tax bills might be, like for instance, a property that I might have that has an assessed valuation of $780,000. And after appeals, I get it down to under $70,000. So in other words, it was assessed at more than 10%. Another property had an assessed valuation of $950,000, got it down to $113,000. So it was almost 9 times the assessed valuation. Meanwhile, they say just pay the tax bill. But that's impossible when properties are assessed at 9, 10, 30%, 30 times, not 30%, 30 times the market value. That's impossible. You can't do it. The Spearman can't do it. Nobody can do it. And nobody should have expected to do it in an instance. But now what's the motivation for it? So we find in this report that has just been revealed by the bigwigs at Lake County that the purpose of this report is not to correct the assessed valuation. You can read the entire report and it never says correct the assessed valuation. You know what it says? It says we're going to take these properties that have been churning, and mind you, we're talking about 15 or 20,000 properties that churn through this tax sale with no buyers. And the suggestion, they talk about several suggestions, but the primary suggestion is this: that we're going to take these properties and find ways to get them to other ownership. And then, after the new owners get the property, you know what happens then? You know what they expect to happen then?
No, go
Can you
ahead.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We're coming
What they
to, we're coming to
what
the
they
end of your
expect will
time.
happen after they take these properties that have been confiscated from all the black residents of Gary, Indiana, and given to new white owners, then they lower the tax bill. In other words, they're not going to correct the tax bill, find ways to make right the properties that have been improperly taxed, the black residents who have been improperly taxed out of their properties, but make sure that the new white residents get treated fairly. You know, if I'm talking about the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, that violates the U.S. Constitution. Doesn't only violate the state Constitution, but it also violates the U.S. Constitution. If I were to suggest that it's proper to take property from black residents in Gary, Indiana, and transfer it to white residents in Gary, Indiana, and give them the break, you know what? That would I should be arrested for that. Not only I should be jailed for that. Held in contempt of the Constitution. There's no way anyone can do that. But that's the plan now. And it wasn't they didn't tell us that before. But now they put it in writing. And please, you can look at this yourself. It's called Possible Ways to Solve the Problem of Churning Parcels Remaining After the Commissioner's Tax Sale. The solution is not to fix the tax problem for people who have lost their property. It's to fix the tax problem for people who get the property after the black residents have lost their property. Does that sound fair to you, Ms. Spearman?
So,
You know, I ran for Calumet Township Assessor. You know what my campaign slogan was? This was my campaign slogan: Stop the tax sale of black-owned properties in Gary, Indiana. That was my campaign slogan. Because I feel firmly that with all the hard work, with all the commitment, dedication, sacrifice made by black residents in Gary, Indiana, that they shouldn't have Ms. Spearman and Mr. Prince stealing their property. And you might as well throw in Calumet Township Assessor too, Ms. Collins, stealing black people's property in Gary, Indiana to transfer it to their rich white friends. That's wrong. That's not only illegal, that's immoral too. So here we show perfect examples of not only the negligence in filing these land orders, and it goes back all the way to when this was created in 2012 for the 14, 15, 16, 17 cycle, and also the 18, 19, 20, 21 cycle, and also the 22, 23, 24, 25 cycle. And it's based on it's based on totally wrong land values, and you don't have to take my word for it. You can use your own lying eyes to see the truth here. That none of these properties go for often for pennies, for nominal amount. You can see that the assessor's office has in their own possession, that properties are assessed at 500%, 600%, 300%, and not only do they not correct it and not use those valid appraisals to determine land value, but instead hide it. You know, Ms. Spearman actually accused me of stealing these.
so
Because-
Mr. Nowacki,
Because she didn't realize that
we're gonna have to
Yeah,
wrap
okay,
up so we can go to the next
she
next
actually
person.
accused me of stealing these because she didn't realize that she had personally sent these to me. So I'll tie it up by saying this, that the issue here is much bigger than the dollars and cents in these taxes. This is a constitutional issue. This is a civil rights issue, and it's a moral issue. And not only should the state step in and prevent black people from losing their property to the tax sale, but they should step in and correct that and have these properties returned to their rightful owners. If this happened on a TV program, we'd all be hissing at the assessor for doing this.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nowacki.
Unfortunately,
We're
she's
gonna,
just getting, did I use 15 minutes already?
yes, we're gonna,
Maybe you'll give me a
we've
chance to
gone
catch up
over the
after we hear
limit
Ms.
here.
Spearman explain, let's hear Ms. Spearman explain how the city has collapsed while she and Assessor Prince laughed at all the fools who are citizens of this. Okay,
All right,
I'm
thank
ready
you,
for
Mr.
my-
Nowacki. All right, we're going to move on.
Thank you.
Our
Thank
next,
you, I'm listening.
our next, the next person, a taxpayer who's registered to speak is Miss Jocelyn Kelly. And let's see if she's in the meeting here. So Miss Jocelyn Kelly has registered to speak. We'll give her a minute. Evening. All right, thank you. I couldn't see that far to the screen, so thank you for saying good evening, so I know who to look at there.
No problem. Thank you for this opportunity. I am responding in opposition to this petition that has been filed challenging Indiana Code 6-1-1-4-13.6. Please be advised, as a residential and commercial property owner in both the town of Maryville and the city of Gary within Lake County, I have directly participated in the process as outlined in the code that is currently being challenged. Specifically, as a commercial property owner within the city of Gary, the Calumet Township in the county of Lake, I experienced challenges relating to the assessed property value associated with a number of my properties. I was able to follow the process as outlined and was granted a subsequent hearing that afforded for a reasonable adjustment for the property value commensurate to the prevailing conditions prior to any developments taking place. My concerns are regarding this petition as it relates to the intent of the prevailing parties that have initiated this petition. Both individuals, Mr. Nowacki and Mr. Young, are both known to purchase numerous parcels of land over the years via the Lake County tax sale, for which they have never paid property tax past the acquisition of said properties, which have further contributed to the deterioration or the deteriorating conditions of the community by engaging in continuous litigation that has allowed them not to pay taxes while choosing not to improve, maintain properties, convey or allow these properties to be sold, and thereby further contributing to the increase in blight, resulting in the destruction of the economic foundation of this community. Their collusive actions propagated have resulted in lower tax collection, the lower tax collection rate directly impacting the city's ability to proactively engage in basic functions, and lessen potential economic opportunities that would spur much needed economic growth and ultimately positions the city of Gary to erode to the point of bankruptcy. In summary, the granting of any revisions to the existing code is feared to allow for individuals to further inflict motives for private financial gain at the detriment to the upstanding property owners who live, work, and operate businesses that pay taxes and invest in the community by being viable, tax-paying, responsible citizens. I would ask that the state of Indiana to research the parties included in this petition for past and current practices, thwarting code, utilizing such methods as bankruptcy, and inspect the conditions of properties for which they are allegedly advocating. Even by the filing of this petition, it further proves their mission to conspire to erupt the prescribed process that is in place to protect and to create order. I ask this petition to be vehemently denied as granted by these petitioners as they work to create and sustain havoc while making a mockery of our government and further destruction of our communities, specifically the Calumet Township, which spans the city of Gary. And yes, I am a property owner. And yes, I'm a Black woman who has businesses as well as residents located in the city of Gary. And nothing has been taken from me. And I am financially, fiscally and as well as responsible for this community and the things that go on. Thank you for hearing my written or my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Thank you. That's all those are the only taxpayers, our 3 taxpayers who registered to speak. So we're going to move on then to Assessor Spearman for her comments and response. So Assessor Spearman, you could go ahead.
Thank you, Jennifer, and good evening again, everyone. I will not be making a formal presentation per se, as we have provided all of the information that was used in determining the land values under my office's jurisdiction, and it is available on the website. However, I would like to provide the dates of the land orders in question and for the previous reassessment cycle. So for the 2018 through 22 cycle, the land order was provided to the PETA-BOA on April 6th of 2022. For the previous 4-year cycle, that land order was provided June 13th of 2018, which remained in effect until the land order that was provided April 6th of this year was submitted.
And then let me ask you just to kind of clarify, I think this will help explain a little bit. It sounds like to me that you or that the Lake County Assessor's Office has promulgated the land order in the last year of the 4-year cycle. Maybe that's causing some confusion. Could you talk about that?
Yes, that is correct. So previous to my administration, it had been the practice to allow the township assessors or the townships that are not covered under the reassessment contract to provide their own land values. My administration, as I have shared, will be changing that process moving forward. The 4-year reassessment plan for the previous cycle, which is the 2014 through 2018 cycle, did state that the land order would be provided in the final year, which was 2018, and it was, again, on June 13th of 2018. The same thing for the current cycle, or the previous cycle, which is the 2018 through 22 cycle. That reassessment plan also provided for the land order to be provided in that final year, which it again was.
And so it was not promulgated and adopted by the PETA-BOA and then applied retroactively. It was just adopted in the last year of the cycle. Is that another way to say it?
That is correct. And again, the order that was provided to the PETA-BOA and accepted in 2018 remained in effect until the new order was presented this year.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
Not at this time.
Okay, Mr. Golson is with us from the Calumet Township Assessor's Office. And I don't know if you'd like to say a couple of words, and then I just had a couple of questions for you as well that might help kind of frame the issues a little bit. Can you hear us well?
I believe you're going to need to unmute yourself. It looks like your mic is, there we go.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. One is on the base rates. I think the information that Mr. Young gave was not correct. We have provided our work papers and recommendations as far as base rates are concerned. We do that. But that is submitted to the county for review and any changes that they feel might be necessary. And that has happened, that the county does make adjustments to our recommendations. So we're not self-determining anything, but we are following procedures as far as that's concerned. I think one of the biggest things with Mr. Young and Mr. Nowacki is that they never provide any evidence of value. It's just an opinion, a personal opinion, and that's about it. And the rest of it, Ms. Kelly, I think said it all. But if you have any questions for me, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
Okay, I just have a couple questions. The neighborhood map in Calumet Township, I took a look at that. And have those neighborhoods been in place for many years, decades, or
Those
how are
neigh-
those delineated?
Those neighborhoods for the stratification process was, yeah, many years ago. And that's where the delineation came from. And I think they were done well. I agree with them. Most of them was the years that certain houses or projects and things were built. There are a couple that are contiguous that probably could be combined, just a couple, and that's in some of the deteriorated neighborhoods. But in those particular neighborhoods, the values are very similar, if not the same. So yes, those neighborhoods have been established for a while. We've added a couple new neighborhoods in the good areas, but not in the blighted areas. Haven't been combined, no.
Okay, and then it sounds like you're saying that although a couple areas could be combined as far as neighborhoods, that it doesn't affect the value, that there's not a big difference in the values because of the neighborhood delineation?
Correct.
Okay. And then I just had another quick question. I wondered, with Miller Beach sort of being up there in the lake area, looking at that map, do you take any of the values from there, since the values are so much higher than some of the areas that are blighted with sort of vacant lots and things like that, or are those totally separate neighborhoods?
Oh, that's a totally separate neighborhood. Totally separate.
Okay, that's helpful to know all that.
And
Anything?
matter
Yes.
of fact, I sent an appraisal of the property in the Miller area. That was a 2018, I believe, appraisal.
So those appraisals, appraisal like that would be used, it sounds like that you're using that to establish rates for those neighborhoods, but not the blighted areas where
No, we've
there's
done that. We've done that as well. We have had the appraisers that we've used to separate the improvements and the land value as a part of the appraisal. And so that's why in this last request, I think there were maybe 7 neighborhoods that values have went down. Overall, I would have to say that the Gary land values are kind of on the low end. I know they're asking for even lower, but I guess if you're a speculative investor and don't want to maintain the property, I guess that's what you would ask for. To pay as least amount of taxes as possible. But yeah, we have complied with the standards associated with the land values.
And the last question I had was, do you know about how many parcels or properties at any one time would be in the tax sale status in Calumet Township?
It has been it's been reported about anywhere between 7 and 10.
Okay, in the township itself.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you. If you don't have anything else to add, I'll open it up to any other township assessors who would like to speak. Oh, yes, go ahead, Mr. Golson.
I just wanted to say, and I think I can maybe Assessor Spearman would like to address it, but the report that Mr. Nowacki keeps talking about is an inconclusive report. I don't think the appraisals were done USPAP standard appraisal because they use a different way. They were trying to do something different to come up with these values. But the Calumet Township had all 3 of the properties that Mr. Nowacki described in that report. We also had an appraisal on, which would contradict the numbers that he reportedly claims as the value of those properties.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Golson. Other township assessors who are with us, they have not indicated that they wanted to say anything, but I want to give that opportunity if you've thought of something you would like to share, so. All right, doesn't sound like we have any other township assessors who would like to share anything or add something there. So I believe that Mr. Young had a few more kind of wrap-up comments he wanted to make. And I said we could reserve a few minutes for him to address anything additional that he wanted to say. So you can feel
Okay,
free,
I'll
Mr.
try
Young.
and keep it short. I just want to respond to some of the things that were said after I spoke. Seems to still be some confusion as to the term of these quadrennial cycles, because Ms. Spearman in her short comments said 14 to 18, and then she also said 18 to 22. So to me, I think that these need to be isolated individual quadrennial cycles. I think that's the way it was meant to be. It doesn't say where it can overlap. You know, they should be distinct terms of the cycle. And because the cycles should be modified as a result of the study of the data of sales that took place in the 2 years preceding it, if not longer. And then a couple things Mr. Golson said I would like to also respond to. You know, he talks about these neighborhoods, and I'm not sure if these couple new neighborhoods he spoke of increased the number of neighborhoods in Kell Township to 94, but I know earlier this year when I was discussing these matters with Ms. Spearman, it was 92. I think that is way more than we need in Gary, Indiana. I think that we could probably reduce the amount of neighborhoods that would have distinctive characteristics that would differentiate themselves from the other neighborhoods to down about 20. And that the benefit of that would be at least twofold, in that if we didn't have 92 neighborhoods and we only had 20, it's possible then that we would have enough sales data to meet the 3% threshold required by statute. So I think that that's something the state should look at too. And again, he admitted that this map they're using, this antiquated, literally tattered map, is decades old. And that's their Bible that they're using to determine these base rates. So, and then the last thing he said was, he said that when Mr. Prince came into office as assessor, he recognized there was a problem with assessments. I had many conversations with him. He then assembled what he referred to as the blue ribbon panel. It was this blue ribbon panel that commissioned these appraisals. It's not like Jim did them or I did them. This was their handiwork. And if Mr. Golson says they got an appraisal from somebody else that contradicts that, that's news to me, and I think news to everybody else. Okay, because these are the appraisals they had done at their behest, no one else's. And they went through great lengths to suppress the results of them. So, you know, one of the other problems in Calumet Township is how many properties are not on the tax rolls. The last time I checked with the county, there were 17,000 parcels in Calumet Township in what they call zero tax status. Be church owned, could be government owned, could be, you know, any number of types of ownership that do not include private tax-paying ownership. And besides that, there are approximately 9,000, maybe 10,000 parcels in this what they're calling now the churner syndrome, I guess, where they can't sell them for any amount of money. So when you add those two numbers together, that's approximately 55% of the total parcels in Calumet Township that are not paying any tax. You know, how could you not expect there to be a problem? You know, and as far as many of the things Ms. Kelly said, I won't respond to those and slander her back, but they're untrue. So far this year, I believe I paid over $650,000 in property taxes. I don't know where she's getting her information. I'm sure somebody else prepared that diatribe for her. So, you know, she is one of the establishment people around town. I'm not surprised whatsoever that she is shilling for somebody else. And that would be my comment on her. So if you want to, I will be happy to contradict many of the other things she stated about me personally in writing. I'm not going to waste everybody's time to do it in public. I'm perfectly confident in myself, and I don't need to prove anything to this people on listening right now. I can do so in writing, and that will be a matter of record.
Right. Well, I think that brings us to the conclusion. We've heard from all the taxpayers and the assessors, and I want to just kind of give you a little bit of a guide as to what will happen next, and to also recap with some of the work that we've done already. So we've had 2 field representatives looking at the land orders and doing various tests on the land orders and doing a pretty deep dive into the data. And they're really experts in this field. So they're really excellent at this detail. And then our assessment director, Barry Wood, he's been heavily involved looking at everything as well. And so what we'll do is we'll continue that work, and we'll consider anything that anyone here would like to send us in writing as well. And we'll consider all the comments that were made this evening. We'll go back and listen and analyze everything that taxpayers contributed and that assessors contributed tonight. And I want to make sure that you have my contact information if you would like to submit something in writing. And that's on the website. So we'll leave that there for a while. But also my email is jthuma@dlgf.in.gov. And you can send any comments there, and we'll set a date of Friday, August 19th. That's next Friday. And you could have up to midnight. I don't mind. Anytime you want to send it by that date will be great. We'll consider that. And then I think that kind of wraps it up. And what we'll do is we will then put together kind of a findings and conclusions so that the taxpayers can understand the process here and all the analysis that we did, and so that the assessors can see that as well and understand our thinking and our analysis. So but we really dedicated so far a lot of time to this, and we really want to give taxpayers a full opportunity to air grievances and to submit any issues that they see with the land orders. So we're happy to do it. And we appreciate everybody being here this evening. We know that you just probably love to be in a hearing on property tax on a beautiful, probably sunny day out there in the summer. So if you have any questions after the hearing, also feel free to email it me as well. So I think that concludes everything, unless you can think of anything else to add.
Just
Barry.
thank you. Reiterate thanks to everybody for your participation.
All right. So
And
thank
Jennifer,
you. Yes.
On behalf of Lake County, I just want to thank the department for their time and attention. I want to thank everybody that have joined us today. So thank you all.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And also on that note, our findings will be available as well. That's going to take us a while to put that together, but it'll be available for everyone to read. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a good evening.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, what's up? Yeah, so.
Well, probably your fault for not able to participate. I mean, look, I couldn't get on with my phone.